So I was saying that when you get to that central point on the crossroad of individual life and death and spiritual life and death, then you find that balance point where the eternal resides. That's the moment, the now. The center of the crossroads is always the now. And only there can you have this supreme experience, this awakening experience. So there are many people that are dead as individuals, you could say. Not necessarily physically dead, but that they are caught in suffering of this crisis of the loss that they experience because of their attachments. And then there are people who are alive as individuals, and this is the life of being an initiate or being a meditator. It's the life of self-realization, you could say. But there are many of either kinds of these people that are still in a state of death as far as the spiritual condition is concerned, where they may be realized as individuals, they might be crystallized, as Gurdjieff used to say, but they haven't opened themselves to the experience of the eternal. They haven't experienced what you could call the Buddha consciousness. And then there's this spiritual life, which is where you can find from the crossroads that point of an awakening. And then you can be alive within death itself, so that physical death has no fear for you, and neither does the death of the ego. The ego death is actually what people fear more, I think, than physical death, because physical death is something far away, it's something distant, it's something undiscovered, you could say, like Shakespeare said, the undiscovered country, because you don't actually live that, but you do live the death of your ego every day. The Buddha isn't about killing the ego, because the ego is dying on a constant basis. You're in a constant state of transformation. That Grim Reaper, that angel of death from the card, is always there, and he's always cutting down your ambitions, cutting down your ideas of how things ought to be. This is the cause of suffering. But if you're in a state where you're no longer afraid of that death, and where you don't associate yourself with this construction that you made for yourself, then you can accept this, you can surrender to death and become alive. Then you really enter this undiscovered country, because you've now gone into this state where, just as the Hanged Man says, you're in a state of mental unknowing. The intellect has gone beyond. You're in a state, just as the Strength card says, of going beyond the animal self, the physical and instinctive self. You're in a state now where you are only existing in the moment, being completely yourself and completely natural, but not putting any expectation into what's going to happen next. So the death card is that card of releasing yourself from the bonds of fear of death. And in that overcoming, you can connect to the joy of life, realizing that they're not two different forces, they're not two poles that are opposed to each other. They're all part of one experience, this experience of the now, this experience of our human potential as Buddhas. And once that's happened and everything has been sheared away, then you're ready for the step towards enlightenment, the awareness state, which begins to be expressed in the next card in the tarot, which is temperance or art. It's the alchemy. Everything has been cut down into its component parts, everything has been sheared away, and now everything's going to get united together in a new form. It's been dissolved, and now it's going to be reinvented. And that's going to be the subject of our next tarot lecture.